Hello everyone. In this video, we'll walk through how to import opening balances into Luca. Importing opening balances ensures the new financial year starts with the correct balances carried forward from the previous period. Let's start with a quick definition. An opening balance is the amount carried forward from your previous accounting system. It includes assets, liabilities, and equity as they stood at the end of the last financial year. Before using the system, it's important to understand how opening balances work in Luca. Opening balances are imported based on the previous year's closing balance sheet. Some balances can be entered directly, while others must be imported using original transactions, such as sales invoices for trade receivables, bills for trade payables. These transactions should be imported before entering asset balances because saving invoices or bills refreshes the opening balances screen, and any unsaved asset entries may be lost. Next, review the closing balance sheet for the period being imported. For this tutorial, we'll use a sample balance sheet from Star Development Private Limited. Always ensure that total assets equal total liabilities and equity before proceeding. Since the sample balance sheet includes trade receivables and trade payables, the related transaction data must be prepared first. Let's begin with trade receivables. Identify the unpaid sales invoices for Star Development Private Limited. As shown on the screen, some customers have multiple outstanding invoices, so invoices are created one by one. Before creating invoices, the required customers must be created in Luca. Customers can be created from the Customer menu under Income in the left panel. Click Add New, enter the customer name CAS Singapore Private Limited, and fill in additional details if available. If not, the record can be saved with only the name. Once saved, the customer is successfully created. Repeat the same steps to create the remaining customers. Next, create a product and service item that will be used when entering invoices. To do this, first go to the Income menu. Then, click on Product and Service, located just below the Customer menu. Finally, click Add New. This opens the form where you can create a new item. Start by entering Sales as the item name. Next, enter as 001 as the SKU. For the description, enter Sales. Set the sale price to 0, since custom amounts will be entered when creating invoices. Then, choose Service Income as the sales account. Now, select each as the unit. If the unit doesn't already exist, you can quickly create it by typing the unit name and pressing Enter. Alternatively, you can go to the Setup menu, click Unit, and create or manage units from there. Finally, set the type to Service. Once everything is complete, click Save to finish. Once you've created all customers and product and service items, we can move on to the opening sales invoices. Go to Setup, select Opening Balances, choose Sales Invoice, and click Add New. From the Create Invoice screen, let's create the first invoice for CAS Singapore Private Limited. To do this, go back to the Sales Invoice form and select the customer as CAS Singapore Private Limited. Next, set the invoice date to 1 January 2025. Then, enter the invoice number 2025-CS01 based on the original invoice. Select Sales as the product or service and enter 2015.05 as the invoice amount. Click Save. Repeat these steps for the remaining invoices. After all invoices are saved, return to the Opening Balances tab. The Trade Receivables balance is now automatically populated as 18,835.20. This field is disabled because Trade Receivables is a control account, and its balance is calculated automatically by the system when saving the invoices. Next, proceed with Trade Payables. Identify the unpaid bills for Star Development Private Limited. Encore Singapore Private Limited has more than one outstanding bill, so we'll create each bill individually. Before creating bills, the required vendors must be created in Luca. To create vendors, go to the Vendor menu under Expenses on the left. Click Add New, and when the form opens, type in the vendor name Encore Singapore Private Limited. You can fill in any additional details if they're available, or just save the vendor with the name. Repeat the same steps for the other vendors. Once all vendors are created, we can move on to creating the opening bills. Go to Setup, then Opening Balances, select Bill, and click Add New. On the Create Bill screen, start by selecting Encore Singapore Private Limited as the vendor. Set the bill date to 1 January 2025 and enter the bill number 2025 ES01134 based on the original bill. Choose Utilities as the expense account and enter the bill amount 10,000.00. Click Save and repeat the same steps for the remaining bills. After saving all bills, return to the Opening Balances tab. The Trade Payables balance is automatically populated as 40,000.00. This field is disabled because Trade Payables is a control account, and the balance is calculated by the system when saving the bills. With Trade Receivables and Trade Payables completed, the remaining balances can now be imported. The remaining balances fall into 3 sections: assets, liabilities, and equity. Each account is entered into its respective section, following the balance sheet structure. When you enter your balances, keep these key points in mind. All figures should be entered as positive numbers, except for the following cases: accumulated depreciation or amortization, assets with negative balances like bank overdrafts, liabilities with negative balances such as overpaid loans, equities with negative balances like accumulated losses. So only enter a negative amount if it's genuinely meant to be negative. Let's begin by importing the first bank asset from the balance sheet, OCBC, SGD, into the system. To begin, go to the Assets section and open the Account dropdown. If you don't see OCBC, SGD in the list, that simply means the account hasn't been created yet. To create a new account, click the Create Account button at the top right. This will open the form where you can enter the account details. Fill in the details as follows. Select Bank as the account type. Enter 22 as the account code. Enter OCBC, SGD as the account name. Use OCBC, SGD again for the description. Once all the details are entered, click Save. You'll see a confirmation message indicating that the account has been created successfully. Select OCBC, SGD, and enter the bank balance 229,559.03 to complete the process. Follow the same steps for the remaining balances. Choose the correct section, assets, liabilities, or equity. Look for the account and create it if needed. Match the balance to the amount shown on the balance sheet. Now let's continue entering the remaining balances using the same steps. Once all balances have been entered, let's take a moment to review the opening balances summary. Make sure that total assets equal total liabilities and equity. There are no remaining differences. If everything looks correct, click Save. You'll see a confirmation message saying, Opening balance successfully saved. This means all your opening balances have been imported into Luca successfully. This concludes the tutorial on importing opening balances in Luca. The company balance sheet is now fully set up and ready for use. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out our other tutorials to learn even more about using Luca. See you next time.